Welcome to Timeless Story Vault. Tonight's story is a guided journey toward the astral plane, a realm long described as existing just beyond ordinary perception, where awareness is no longer anchored entirely to the physical world. This is not a dream meant to rush you into sleep, and it is not a meditation that asks you to release anything yet. It is an exploration, slow and deliberate, designed to guide your attention toward a subtler space where structure, intelligence, and vastness coexist quietly. As you listen, nothing about your physical body needs to change. You are not being asked to imagine leaving it, separating from it, or dissolving into anything unfamiliar. Instead, your awareness begins to widen naturally, the way it does when curiosity replaces effort. Thoughts may still arise, but they feel less urgent, less demanding, as if they have more room to exist without needing to be followed or resolved. Across many cultures, the astral plane has been described not as a destination, but as a field, a layered expanse where perception becomes fluid and space behaves differently than it does in waking life. Some traditions describe it as luminous, others as dark but structured, filled with motion that unfolds slowly and deliberately. Tonight, you are not here to adopt any single description. You are here to experience the approach itself, which unfolds gradually without force or expectation. At first, what surrounds you feels like darkness, but not the darkness of closed eyes or dim rooms. This darkness has depth and dimension. It carries distance. It feels expansive rather than enclosing, as though you are standing within a vast interior rather than looking outward into emptiness. Within it, you begin to sense orientation, even though nothing yet appears fixed or clearly defined. As attention settles into this space, faint forms begin to emerge, not objects or landscapes, but enormous planes of translucent light drifting slowly past one another, intersecting without sound or resistance. They move with immense patience, like structures that were never meant to hurry. Their surfaces carry subtle markings, patterns that feel intentional, though not readable, suggesting that this space is organized by principles far older than language. A low resonance becomes noticeable, not heard with the ears, but felt internally, like standing within a steady vibration. It does not announce itself or demand attention. It simply exists beneath everything else, giving the space coherence and weight, without heaviness. The farther awareness drifts into this astral field, the more apparent it becomes that nothing here is accidental. Motion, stillness, distance, and alignment all serve a purpose that does not yet need to be understood. As the planes of light drift and rearrange, currents begin to form between them. These currents move in slow, deliberate paths, flowing upward, downward, and sideways in ways that do not obey physical gravity. Each current carries a slightly different tone of light: pale blue, soft violet, muted silver, hints of warm gold, blending without ever becoming bright. They feel less like illumination and more like information expressed as motion. You notice that your awareness adjusts naturally to this environment. There is no effort involved in tracking movement or holding perspective. Perception feels broader, less focused on any single point, as though you are taking in the space all at once rather than scanning it. This is not disorientation. It is acclimation, the subtle recalibration that happens when attention enters a wider field. Far ahead, beyond the overlapping planes and flowing currents, there is a sense of something vast and unmoving. It does not shine more brightly than its surroundings, and it does not announce itself as an object or destination. Yet everything nearby seems subtly oriented around it, as if it were an axis rather than a structure. You are not meant to approach it yet. The astral plane does not reveal its deeper layers all at once. It prepares awareness first, allowing perception to stretch without strain. As you continue to drift within this widening space, the sense of scale increases. Distances feel immense, but not intimidating. The currents of light trace slow paths that suggest boundaries without enclosing anything. Some regions feel open and expansive, others more concentrated, as though certain areas of the astral field hold greater density or significance. You begin to sense that this region is not empty because it is uninhabited. It is empty because it is waiting. The architecture here feels anticipatory, like a place designed to receive awareness once it has reached the appropriate state of balance. Nothing rushes forward to meet you. Nothing retreats. Everything holds position with quiet confidence. The resonance beneath the space deepens slightly, not growing louder, but more defined. It feels less like a sound and more like a structural support, the way a foundation exists beneath a building without being visible. This resonance does not guide you. It stabilizes the field, allowing the currents, planes, and distances to remain coherent as awareness continues its gradual adjustment. At times, faint impressions pass through the currents, not images, not beings, but the suggestion of form. Tall silhouettes composed of layered light appear at extreme distances, so far away they feel more like ideas than figures. Circular formations rotate slowly, so slowly that their motion is perceived only by noticing change over time. These impressions do not draw closer, and they do not recede. They simply exist as part of the astral environment. You are not being observed in any familiar sense, yet there is a subtle awareness within the space that recognizes presence. Not judgment, not evaluation, but acknowledgement. The astral plane responds to awareness the way a vast body of water responds to a gentle shift in current, without resistance, without disturbance. As this realization settles, the space ahead begins to organize itself more clearly. The currents align into broader pathways. The planes of light drift into formations that feel less random and more intentional. You are not moving faster, but the field itself is clarifying, as though preparing to reveal the next layer of its structure. This region, the astral approach, is designed to lengthen perception. It does not overwhelm. It does not instruct. It allows awareness to become spacious enough to encounter what lies deeper without contraction or effort. Nothing here asks you to relax, surrender, or let go. Those concepts belong later, beyond thresholds not yet reached. For now, you remain within this expanding field, suspended in observation rather than action. The astral plane continues to unfold at its own pace, revealing order without explanation and scale without demand. Whatever exists deeper within this realm has not yet stepped forward, but the architecture is aligning, and the space knows you are coming. As awareness continues to settle into the astral field, the vastness that once felt abstract begins to reveal a subtle order. The drifting planes of light no longer appear as isolated forms, but as parts of a larger arrangement, sliding into alignment with one another in slow, deliberate motions. Their intersections create corridors of depth, not tunnels or passageways in the physical sense, but regions where perception naturally flows more easily, as though the astral plane itself has preferred directions of movement. The currents threading through these corridors grow steadier and more defined. They no longer meander freely, but follow gentle arcs that curve around invisible centers, suggesting a geometry that is felt rather than seen. These currents do not pull you forward, yet awareness drifts along them naturally, guided by coherence instead of force. There is a sense that this realm is not chaotic or infinite in the way emptiness might be, but structured in layers that reveal themselves only when attention becomes sufficiently broad and calm. Within this widening field, points of stillness emerge. These are not objects, but regions where motion slows to near imperceptibility. Light gathers there more densely, forming calm nodes that feel anchored, stable, and ancient. Around each node, currents bend subtly, as though respecting a presence that does not need to assert itself. These still regions feel important, not because they demand focus, but because everything else seems to orient around them. As you drift closer to one such region, perception sharpens without narrowing. The light here feels deeper, richer, carrying a sense of memory without images. It is as if the astral plane retains impressions of countless passages, countless awarenesses that have moved through this same region before, each leaving no trace, yet contributing to a collective familiarity. This place does not belong to any one journey, yet it recognizes them all. You begin to notice that the astral field is layered vertically as well as horizontally. Some currents pass above others, slower and heavier, while deeper layers move with an almost imperceptible gravity. These lower strata feel quieter, not darker, but more resolved, as though fewer changes occur there. Awareness senses that descending into these layers requires no effort, only patience, and that nothing prevents such movement except the natural pacing of acclimation. Farther ahead, the architecture grows more pronounced. Vast forms appear at the limits of perception, too large to take in all at once. They resemble immense arcs and pillars of muted light, standing not on surfaces, but suspended within the field itself. These structures do not appear constructed. They feel grown, formed over immense spans of time by the flow of astral currents themselves. Their surfaces carry subtle striations, like geological layers compressed into luminous stone. Between these forms, wide open spaces stretch outward, clear and unoccupied. Yet they do not feel empty. They feel intentionally unfilled, reserved, as though designed to remain open so that awareness may pass through without obstruction. The astral plane does not crowd perception. It allows room for expansion, for observation, for orientation. It is here that the sense of presence becomes clearer. Not localized, not directional, but distributed throughout the space. It does not resemble watching or surveillance. Instead, it feels like governance without intrusion, a balancing intelligence that maintains alignment without interference. The astral field responds continuously to awareness, but never reacts. Nothing shifts suddenly. Nothing closes in. The order here is patient and self-sustaining. As awareness adjusts further, faint distinctions between regions become noticeable. Some areas feel receptive, open, and flowing, while others feel reserved, quiet, and still. These differences do not signal danger or restriction. They feel more like natural thresholds, places where the astral plane subtly indicates readiness rather than permission. Movement between them is not blocked, but it is paced, unfolding as awareness becomes attuned to each layer's density. The currents themselves begin to carry nuance. Some feel light and expansive, encouraging observation. Others feel grounding, encouraging stability and focus. Awareness moves between them fluidly, guided by resonance rather than decision. There is no sense of choosing a direction. Instead, perception follows coherence, drifting toward what feels most aligned in the moment. At times, distant shapes appear along the edges of these regions. They are not fully formed figures, nor are they illusions. They appear as vertical alignments of layered light, taller than any structure nearby, composed of overlapping planes that shift slowly within themselves. They do not move through the astral field. They remain fixed, serving as reference points rather than participants. Their presence is subtle but unmistakable, carrying a sense of function rather than identity. These forms do not approach. They do not acknowledge directly. Yet the surrounding currents bend ever so slightly in their vicinity, and the architecture nearby feels more stabilized, more ordered. Awareness senses that these presences are not observers but maintainers, existing not to engage, but to ensure coherence across the astral plane's deeper layers. Without instruction, perception understands that these regions are not yet meant to be entered directly, not because of exclusion, but because deeper layers require further attunement. The astral plane does not test or judge readiness. It simply unfolds in response to it. As this understanding settles, the space ahead begins to widen again. The towering forms remain at a respectful distance, their silhouettes gradually softening into the surrounding light. The currents resume their broader arcs, and the sense of pressure or significance recedes, replaced by a calm certainty that structure exists here, quietly and reliably. Awareness continues to expand, now more stable within the astral field. The earlier sense of vastness no longer feels abstract. It feels inhabited by order, by layers of intelligence that do not communicate through language or symbols, but through alignment itself. The astral plane is not a realm of chaos or imagination. It is a domain of quiet systems, operating beneath conscious thought. The resonance beneath everything grows slightly more pronounced, still gentle, still unobtrusive. It feels like a constant note, holding the entire field together, preventing drift or collapse. This resonance does not originate from any single location. It permeates the space evenly, binding currents, structures, and still regions into a unified whole. At this depth, awareness no longer feels like a point moving through space. It feels distributed, present across a wider span, able to perceive relationships between distant regions without needing to traverse the distance between them. This shift happens naturally, without effort, as though perception itself has widened to match the scale of the astral plane. Ahead, a subtle convergence begins to form. Currents from multiple directions curve inward toward a shared region, not sharply, but gradually, creating a broad, calm basin within the astral field. This convergence does not feel like a destination. It feels like a gathering point, a place where awareness naturally stabilizes before deeper layers reveal themselves. The architecture around this region becomes simpler. Fewer structures, fewer planes, more open space. The light grows more uniform, smoothing into gentle gradients rather than distinct forms. The presences at the periphery remain distant, their function implied rather than enacted. This is not yet the threshold. It is the approach to it. The astral plane continues to hold awareness here, allowing orientation to settle fully before anything further unfolds. Nothing urges you forward. Nothing pulls you back. The space remains balanced, patient, and prepared. And somewhere within this quiet convergence, the deeper order of the astral realm waits, not hidden, but unrevealed, until awareness is ready to perceive it without strain. Within the broad convergence of currents, awareness begins to notice a subtle change in texture. The astral field here feels denser, not heavier, but more precise, as though the space itself has been refined. Movement slows slightly, not because of resistance, but because everything within this region operates at a narrower range of variation. The gradients of light smooth further, and the currents that once arced widely now trace more deliberate paths, bending inward with quiet inevitability. This region does not announce itself as a boundary, yet it is clearly distinct. The astral plane often reveals thresholds not through barriers, but through shifts in coherence. Here, perception feels gently gathered, drawn into a more stable configuration. Awareness is no longer expanding outward. It is settling into alignment, adjusting itself to a frequency that feels both ancient and exact. The resonance beneath the field becomes clearer here. It is still not a sound, but it carries structure, like a framework holding everything in place. This resonance does not fluctuate. It remains steady, providing a reference point against which all motion is subtly calibrated. Currents passing through this region adapt to it, smoothing their paths, reducing variation, as though the astral plane itself is ensuring stability before anything deeper is revealed. Ahead, the open basin of convergence narrows into a vast, calm expanse that feels intentionally prepared. The space is wide and unobstructed, yet nothing within it feels undefined. Light arranges itself into gentle layers, stacked without edges, forming a sense of depth that is easy to perceive without focusing on any single plane. There is no central object, no structure demanding attention. The region functions as a field rather than a place. It is here that the sense of presence shifts again. No new forms appear, but the awareness of function becomes more pronounced. The towering silhouettes once glimpsed at a distance are no longer visible, yet their influence remains. The currents here behave differently, as though guided by constraints that are not imposed but inherent. Motion is permitted, but only within harmonized ranges. Nothing strays too far from balance. This is the first true threshold of the astral plane. Not a gate, not a door, but a state in which awareness must be sufficiently coherent to proceed without distortion. The astral realm does not block passage, it filters alignment. Those who move deeper do so because their perception has adjusted naturally, not because they have crossed a line. As awareness settles further, the space begins to respond more intimately. The layered light shifts subtly with each change in attention, mirroring focus without amplifying it. When perception rests broadly, the field remains expansive. When it narrows slightly, the layers draw closer together. This responsiveness feels deliberate, as though the astral plane is confirming readiness through resonance rather than examination. Within this field, the first true markers of the gatekeeper's function become apparent, not as figures or entities, but as zones of stabilization embedded within the space itself. These zones feel like anchors, maintaining equilibrium across the threshold. Currents bend around them smoothly, never colliding, never fragmenting. Awareness senses that these anchors are not static objects, but ongoing processes, continuously balancing the astral environment. There is no sense of authority here in the human sense, no command, no judgment. The gatekeeper's role is not to permit or deny, but to preserve integrity. They ensure that what moves deeper into the astral plane does so without disruption, without carrying distortions that could destabilize subtler layers. Their presence is expressed entirely through order. As perception acclimates, faint lines of alignment become visible within the field. These are not drawn or illuminated. They are implied, revealed only through the way light and motion arrange themselves. Awareness follows them naturally, not as paths to be walked, but as orientations to be held. Remaining aligned with these lines feels effortless, while drifting from them feels unnecessary rather than forbidden. The field ahead grows quieter still. Motion continues, but at a pace that feels nearly timeless. Changes occur, but so slowly that they are noticed only by contrast. This slowness does not feel like stagnation. It feels like depth, the kind that accumulates over immense spans without ever needing urgency. At the center of this threshold region, a subtle focal presence emerges. It does not appear as an object or a figure. Instead, it feels like a point of perfect equilibrium, where all currents pass without disturbance. Light does not gather there more brightly. It remains neutral, balanced, almost invisible, except for the way everything else seems to orient around it. Awareness does not approach this center directly. It does not need to. Simply remaining within the threshold allows perception to attune to it gradually. The astral plane is not linear here. Distance is less meaningful than coherence. As alignment increases, awareness feels closer without moving. Within this state, something important becomes clear. The gatekeepers are not separate from the astral plane. They are expressions of its deepest order, emergent intelligences that maintain continuity across layers. They do not intervene, they stabilize, they do not communicate, they resonate. This understanding does not arrive as a thought, but as a settling of perception. It removes any sense of anticipation or concern. There is nothing to encounter, nothing to confront. The astral plane is not guarded against intrusion. It is maintained against imbalance. As awareness remains within the threshold, the field begins to simplify further. The layered light smooths into broader gradients. The currents slow to near stillness. The resonance beneath everything remains constant, anchoring perception gently in place. This is not the end of motion, but its refinement into minimal expression. At the periphery of awareness, distant regions of the astral plane continue their slow operations, but they no longer draw attention. Focus remains naturally centered within the threshold field. The sense of readiness deepens, not as anticipation, but as quiet sufficiency. Nothing more is required to remain here. This region does not yet invite surrender or rest. It invites presence without effort. Awareness is held, not guided forward, but supported as it stabilizes. The astral plane does not rush deeper revelation. It allows perception to settle fully before opening subtler layers. The gatekeeper's influence remains indirect, but unmistakable. The field holds itself with quiet precision. No distortion enters, no turbulence forms. Everything remains coherent, patient, and prepared. Ahead, beyond this threshold, the astral plane deepens further. Its most subtle regions remain unrevealed, not hidden, but waiting. Awareness is now aligned enough to sense their existence without straining to perceive them. The threshold holds steady, and the astral plane waits. Beyond the threshold of alignment, the astral plane changes character in a way that is immediately perceptible, yet difficult to define. Structure does not disappear, but it becomes less rigid, less articulated. The layered gradients of light soften, blending more seamlessly into one another, and the currents that once traced deliberate paths now move with a slower, more tidal rhythm. Awareness senses that this region is not organized by corridors or axes, but by flow and containment. Here, perception no longer orients itself around distance. Near and far lose their meaning, replaced by a sense of depth that feels internal rather than spatial. The astral field no longer presents itself as something you move through. It feels more like something you are held within, suspended gently as motion occurs around you rather than because of you. The resonance beneath everything remains present, but it is less structural now and more enveloping. It no longer feels like a framework. It feels like a surrounding medium, a steady presence that cushions awareness and prevents it from drifting too far in any direction. This is where the gatekeeper's role becomes most tangible, not as figures or anchors, but as a stabilizing boundary that defines how deep awareness may sink without losing coherence entirely. Light in this region is diffuse and softened, no longer forming planes or pillars. It appears as vast, luminous haze, layered in slow-moving sheets that overlap and dissolve into one another. Colors are muted and blended, pale blues melting into silvers, silvers into warm grays, with faint undertones of gold that surface briefly before fading again. Nothing here sharpens or clarifies. Everything here smooths and rounds. As awareness drifts deeper, a sensation of buoyancy becomes noticeable. There is no upward or downward pull, yet perception feels supported, as though floating within a dense but gentle medium. Movement occurs without effort or intention. Attention does not direct it. It unfolds naturally, guided by the slow internal logic of the astral sea. This region feels ancient, not in age, but in familiarity. It carries the sense of having existed long before distinctions like waking and dreaming were defined. The astral plane here does not differentiate between observation and participation. Awareness simply exists within the field, neither separate from it nor absorbed entirely into it. At times, faint shapes form within the luminous haze. They do not coalesce into recognizable figures or landscapes. Instead, they appear as soft impressions, arcs, curves, vast rounded forms that drift past slowly, too large to fully perceive at once. These impressions do not demand interpretation. They pass through awareness like distant weather systems, felt rather than seen. The gatekeeper's influence is most clearly felt here as containment. The astral sea holds awareness gently, preventing it from dissolving completely into undifferentiated sensation. There is a subtle boundary, not experienced as an edge, but as a reassurance. Awareness may drift, soften, and widen, but it will not fragment or vanish. The field supports continuity without requiring focus. Time behaves differently here. Sequence loses importance. Moments stretch and overlap, blending into one another without clear beginnings or endings. Awareness no longer tracks progression. Instead, it rests within duration itself, floating in an extended present that feels both expansive and intimate. Gradually, reference to the physical world grows fainter, not because it is being pushed away, but because it no longer feels relevant. The sense of having a body does not disappear, but it becomes abstract, distant, like a memory rather than an immediate experience. Sensation fades into background awareness, present but uninsistent. Thoughts, if they arise, do not form into language easily. They appear as vague impressions, half-formed and transient, dissolving before they can organize themselves into narratives. This is not emptiness, it is spaciousness, a state where cognition loosens its grip without being forced to release it. The astral sea continues to cradle awareness, its slow internal tides maintaining equilibrium. Occasionally, a deeper current passes through the field, barely perceptible, causing the luminous haze to thicken slightly before thinning again. These currents feel like breathing on a scale far larger than any single awareness, slow and rhythmic, endlessly patient. As awareness settles further into this state, a gentle narrowing begins to occur. Not contraction, but convergence. The vastness remains, but perception gradually centers itself within a smaller span, as though preparing to rest within the field rather than continue exploring it. This centering happens naturally, guided by the gatekeeper's containment rather than by intention. The luminous haze dims slightly, not darkening, but deepening, like twilight slipping toward night without losing warmth. Colors soften further, edges dissolve completely, and the astral sea becomes a uniform field of gentle radiance and motion. Nothing stands out, nothing recedes. Everything exists at the same depth of presence. Awareness feels steady here, supported and unburdened. There is no urgency, no direction to follow, no structure to understand. The astral plane has done its work of alignment and stabilization. What remains is a slow descent into a state where perception can release its need to orient, categorize, or observe actively. This is where the journey begins to turn inward. Not abruptly, not decisively, but with a gradual easing away from engagement. The astral sea continues to move, to breathe, to hold awareness in its slow rhythm, while perception drifts toward a quieter mode of being. The gatekeepers remain present, though no longer sensed as distinct influence. Their role has become invisible, integrated fully into the field itself. The astral plane holds awareness safely, allowing it to soften without fear of loss or disintegration. Ahead, beyond this gentle convergence, lies the final descent, the region where the astral plane blends seamlessly into dream, where awareness no longer needs to remain structured at all. That region does not reveal itself yet. It waits, just beyond the edge of attention, ready to receive awareness when it is ready to let go completely. For now, the astral sea continues its slow, steady motion, and awareness drifts quietly within it. Within the inner astral sea, the sense of movement continues to soften. The slow tides that once carried awareness gently now feel less like motion and more like presence, a subtle holding that no longer needs to guide or support. The luminous haze grows even smoother, its gentle glow becoming uniform, as though the field itself has settled into a state of rest alongside you. Nothing here urges awareness forward anymore. Nothing pulls it back. The astral plane has completed its work of alignment, and what remains is a quiet invitation to drift. Perception begins to narrow naturally, not collapsing inward, but relaxing into a smaller, more intimate span. The vastness remains, but it no longer demands attention. It exists as a quiet backdrop, a reassurance rather than a frontier. Awareness no longer feels suspended within a boundless field. It feels comfortably held, as though resting within a calm interior space that knows exactly how much room is needed. The resonance beneath everything becomes subtler still. It is no longer noticed as structure or containment. It blends into the background of sensation, indistinguishable from the gentle sense of stability that now permeates awareness. The gatekeeper's influence, once felt as order and protection, has fully dissolved into the environment. There is no boundary to notice, no threshold to cross. Safety is assumed, inherent, unquestioned. Thought loses its momentum here. Ideas no longer attempt to form. When impressions arise, they do so softly, briefly, and without shape. They dissolve before becoming language, before turning into images or memories. The mind does not resist this change. It accepts the slowing with quiet relief, as though it has been waiting for permission to stop organizing experience. The sense of time continues to loosen. Moments stretch without direction, overlapping gently until the idea of sequence fades altogether. There is no longer a sense of having arrived somewhere or moving toward anything. Awareness rests in duration itself, floating within a steady, unbroken present that feels endlessly patient. The luminous haze deepens again, dimming slightly without becoming dark. It feels like the moment just after twilight, when the last colors of day have softened into night, but the world has not yet gone to sleep. This light carries warmth without brightness, presence without definition. It no longer outlines space, it simply fills it. Awareness drifts further inward, though inward no longer feels like a direction. It feels more like settling, like lowering gently into a surface that supports without yielding. The astral sea continues to cradle perception, its slow internal rhythm now nearly indistinguishable from stillness. Breathing feels slower, quieter, though it is no longer something awareness actively notices. It happens on its own, steady and unremarkable. Any remaining sense of separation between awareness and the field begins to dissolve. There is no merging in a dramatic sense. Nothing disappears. The distinction simply becomes irrelevant. The astral plane no longer feels like a place being experienced. It feels like a state that awareness naturally inhabits, without effort or intention. Occasionally, faint pulses of motion ripple through the haze, like distant waves passing beneath a calm surface. They do not interrupt the stillness. They deepen it, reinforcing the sense that everything here moves only as much as necessary. These pulses carry no information, no message. They are reminders that the field remains alive, attentive, and gently sustaining. Awareness grows quieter still. The need to observe fades. There is nothing left to understand or orient toward. The journey has completed its arc, not by reaching a destination, but by releasing the need for one. The astral plane does not recede. It remains present, surrounding, supportive, as awareness sinks deeper into its calm interior. The luminous haze begins to thin in places, revealing a softer darkness beneath. This darkness does not feel empty or unknown. It feels familiar, comforting, like the space behind closed eyes when sleep is already close. Light and dark no longer contrast. They blend seamlessly, forming a gentle gradient that offers no resistance to drifting. Sensations from the physical world, if they remain at all, feel distant and abstract. The sense of weight, position, and boundary fades into background awareness. The body exists, but it no longer requires attention. It rests wherever it rests, supported and unremarkable, as awareness floats freely without needing to manage or respond to it. The astral plane continues to hold everything steady. There is no sense of falling or sinking. There is only easing, the gradual release of engagement, the quiet untying of attention from structure and form. Awareness feels light, unburdened, unconcerned with continuity or memory. If any final thoughts drift through, they do so gently, like clouds passing across a moonlit sky. They do not linger, they dissolve on their own, leaving behind a clearer, softer stillness. The mind no longer follows them. It watches briefly, then lets them pass without effort. The inner astral sea now feels like a cradle rather than an expanse. Its motion has slowed to the faintest suggestion of rhythm, barely perceptible, like the memory of movement rather than movement itself. Everything here communicates the same quiet assurance. There is nothing left to do. Awareness settles further, slipping easily into a state where even the idea of awareness becomes diffuse. There is no tension in this transition. It feels natural, inevitable, like the final moments before sleep takes hold completely. The astral plane does not withdraw. It simply becomes unnecessary to notice it. The last traces of structured perception soften and fade. Light dissolves into darkness that feels warm and familiar. Space loses definition. Time loses relevance. What remains is a deep, steady calm that holds awareness gently without requiring anything in return. Sleep does not arrive suddenly. It spreads slowly, like a warm tide rising without edges or urgency. Awareness does not fall into it. It drifts, eases, and then rests within it, fully supported, fully at ease. The astral gatekeepers no longer need to hold the field. Their work is complete. The astral plane remains stable, quiet, and whole, continuing its slow, timeless rhythm whether awareness remains present or not. And now, nothing more is required. You drift, you soften, you rest. The astral sea grows quiet, and sleep takes you gently, completely, without interruption.